This weekend, the new box for Warcry Bloodhunt goes up for pre-order. The box has a vampire warrior monks of the Askurgan Trueblades up against the Claws of Karanak, a Khorne warband who worship the Fleshhounds above all. So we're going to have a quick look through and see if it's worth you picking up. This is the second expansion box for the season. So there was an initial big box called the Heart of Gur, then Sundered Fate was the Hunters of Huanxi versus the Jade Obelisk. The Bloodhunt box does not have the core rulebook, dice, or tokens. You do get 2 full warbands, a board, and scenery. You get the ability and fighter cards for the warband, and you get some scenario cards, although they are quite few. So you could use this as a limited pool of cards, but really there for adding to your collection from the bigger Gur box. If you've never played Warcry before, but like to look at this box, you really only need the dice and the PDF rules, which you can find online. You'll also need some wound tokens and some activation tokens, but that's about it. We should see another box called Nightmare Quest in about 3 months, after which presumably we'll see a new big box and a new theme. Unlike with Kill Team, where the terrain has been 90% repeated, the Warcry boxes have been very good. You're not getting a ton of scenery in this box, but if you've been keeping up with all of the releases, then each box is bringing new options and building on the collection as a whole. In this video, we're going to look in depth at the 2 warbands. These are the Askurgan Trueblades and the Claws of Karanak. Let's start with the Askurgan Trueblades and with the Askurgan Templar. With speed 5, this guy is fast, and with 9 damage, he is the top damage hero in the Death faction. As a hero, you can take him as an ally for any Death warband, and you might just be doing that. He's just short of monster level, so bringing him is one hell of a punch. He does have a triple perfect strike, which will let him crit on 5s instead of 6s. But if you look at his damage, you're only just adding 2 damage to a crit, so it's not really that impressive. Unlike with Kill Team, there's nothing special about crits beyond it being more damage. This triple will increase his average damage by 1, but if you instead downgraded that to a 2 and use Onslaught, you'd actually increase your damage by 3. He has access to all of the other Askurgan Trueblade abilities, so the reaction will improve his toughness 5, the double will give him a free move or attack after a kill, while the quad increases his movement and attacks by 2. The quad is quite interesting, as normally you'd look for Rampage to get a free move and attack. If you have to move to get to your target, then Rampage is always going to be better. But if you're already on your target, and you know one attack isn't going to get the job done, then this quad will give you an extra 4 dice, which is just slightly better than the 3 of a bonus attack. For the Templar, that's an average 12 damage, rather than a 9, so it could really be worth it. That said, you're looking at an average of 30 damage over those attacks, so you must really want something to die. Basically, the ability is a nice option to have, but will probably be quite rare to use. The ability unique to this fighter is the triple Magisterial Pulse. He can only use it if he has taken down an enemy fighter, but it does give +1 attack dice to all friendlies within 8 inches. As we'll see later, many of the other fighters in this warband have only 2 attack dice, so getting that extra 1 is a big increase in their damage. Moving over to the Ascetics and the Acolytes. These are the standard foot troops of the Trueblades. The Ascetics are a little harder to kill with 4 toughness and 15 wounds for 115 points, while the Acolytes are a little cheaper with 90 points, but have 3 toughness and 12 wounds instead. Everyone has the Elite rune mark for the reaction and quad, while the Ascetic has the Destroyer rune mark for the triple perfect strike. Again, the damage increase is actually so minimal that in almost all cases you're going to be better off using the Universal Double Onslaught instead. Weapons can be changed without impacting points, which is great for list building and assembling your first box. The choice here essentially is between reach or little extra damage. Wounds are what you'd expect for the points, and the damage is actually pretty comparable. At 100 points, I'd look for 4 damage for a top tier fighter, so these are about right, especially when you take into account the reach. They're all very fast at 5, so this is actually quite a competitive set of fighters. All of them have access to Moments of Savagery, so anyone getting a kill gets an easy extra action for double. 2 fighters do not have the Elite rune mark, so they don't get to use the reaction or the quad. These are the Askurgan Pariah, a vampire who was a Trueblade, but failed in her vows and is now returned and is attempting to make penance. The model has the cutest little bat buddy, which makes everything worthwhile. This fighter is almost midway between the Ascetic and the Acolyte. He loses the rune marks, and is almost the same as the Acolyte with Bonehill Falchion, but has 8 more wounds for 15 points. The Scout rune mark opens up the Beast Familiar ability. This is very cool. It's a double with 20-inch range, so easy enough to do and massive reach. It doesn't even say visible, so there's no hiding from it. It means your target cannot disengage, so as long as you have someone melee with the target, they're stuck there. Net abilities are always useful, and while this doesn't stop a fighter outside of melee, it is a fantastic addition to the warband. The Curse Blade is more expensive at 190, but has a ton of damage at 6.67 average, and lots of health at 25. It's even faster than others with move 6, and has a really interesting double ability, Terrifying Howl. Reactions came into the game at the start of this edition, and every fighter gets 3 universal reactions: counter, take cover, and strike them down, along with the reaction unique to the warband. Take cover is against range attacks, and strike them down as a reaction to enemies disengaging, so Terrifying Howl is really only useful against counter or specific warband reactions. As the Curse Blood is strength 5, counter isn't too much of a concern, as you have to miss with your attacks before it makes a difference. So really this ability is specific meta against certain warbands. Interesting to have, but you'll probably only use it once in a blue moon. Overall, this fighter is fast with good health and decent damage. It's a really solid fighter. Note that since it does have the Beast Rune mark, you cannot carry treasure or move through closed doors. Not always a big deal, but important to remember. And that's the warband, fast and deadly. With the low number of attack dice, I imagine they will be quite swiggy, but their high strength means they'll still be hitting a lot for 2 base damage. This also means they get a lot of value from bonus dice, like Magisterial Pulse, or even just Onslaught. It looks like you can build 3 of the Acolytes, and have the options for the Acolytes and Ascetics to be built with either weapon. As with all current GW miniatures, they are monopose, but a second box wouldn't be crazy to round out the numbers. Alternatively, you can recruit in some of the Death heroes as allies, or one of the Underworld warbands, which will get you some additional fighters. I've just put up a video talking about the Death Underworld warbands, which I'll link at the end of this video. Next up, the Claws of Karanak. And first we have the Pack Lord. He has the same cost and base characteristics as the Templar, but has a slightly better damage profile, pushing out to 9.17 average damage versus T4 targets, although he is a little worse against T5 or higher. He's actually identical to the Heart Eater from the Untamed Beasts, although it does cost 5 points more. That's a pretty good place to be. He's fast, tough, and has a bucket load damage. All of the claws have a reaction to someone disengaging that will add 1 to the attacks made by all friendly that go after that target. I think this is actually a bad option, although there are potential scenarios where it could work. First, disengage is rare enough action to take, so chances to use this ability will be even rarer. Using this reaction will take up an action, so you'll want that +1 dice to be worth more than taking an action. You also need this ability to be worth more than just playing the universal reaction Strike Them Down, which is a 4+ chance of doing d6 damage. So I think in match play, this reaction will almost never be used. The circumstances to actually get value out of it will be so rare that it'll basically never be seen. Now where it will see play is in narrative games. There, your fighters will have renown that can be used to trigger reactions for free. Most warbands like the Askurgan Trueblades have defensive reactions, but the claws can turn theirs into an offense, which is very useful. The claws double is a classic Blood for the Blood God, giving anyone in the warband an extra action after they kill someone. The triple is unique to the Pack Lord and gives +1 attack dice to nearby friendlies. That 8-inch range is very, very big, so you could actually get a lot of value out of this. But at the same time, you always have to wonder if maybe you would have been better off using Blood for the Blood God to get an extra action with the Pack Lord. Then we have the quad. This one is quite interesting. Like many quads we talk about, the first thing we have to do is compare it to Rampage, where you get an extra move and an extra attack. This version is only better than Rampage when you're already melee, but that's fine. You do get the extra attack, but interestingly get to remove the target fighter and place them anywhere around your fighter. So you can essentially suplex them behind you into melee with the rest of your pack. Quite cool. The 20 points or less limit presumably is to stop you Hulk smashing Chimera and the like, which is understandable but a shame nonetheless. The core of the pack is made up with Blood Whelps, which are a fantastic looking Khorne cultist. These are fast with 5 move, average health, and relatively low toughness. You get to choose between a flail and the spear, with all of them costing 90 points. So you're looking at either reach 3 or reach 2 with slightly better damage. I suspect we'll have the options to do either with each fighter in the box, and I personally think I'd go for the spear, as I prefer the 2-4 damage, even if that is less dice. All of these fighters have the Agile rune mark, which lets them use the Pack Hunter double. This lets you chain fighter activations back to back, and I have to admit I really do like it. There are downsides. Usually you use chat fighters to have activation control, where at the end of the round, you'll be able to take actions without your opponent getting to do so. There can be turns, however, where you want to do the reverse, and get as many actions early rather than later. With 2 doubles, you're able to chain 3 of these Bloodwhelp activations back to back. This could be used to move in and attack, and then get some solid damage down, but you can also use to fully surround a target. In objective missions, like with treasure, you could have multiple fighters picking up multiple treasures, or even take advantage of the drop action to move a single treasure a big distance. Moving up the scale, we have the Brutalizers and the Hound of Wrath. You have 2 variants with the Brutalizer, one with 2 Shredder Blades, and the other with 1 blade and 1 meat hook. Both are 15 wounds, which is bang on expected for 150 points. Toughness is a little low at 3, but expected for this warband, and easily made up for with the move 5. The damage with the 2 blades is great, and 5.33 exceeds the optimistic 1 damage per 25 I like to look for, so this is a highly efficient fighter. If you take the meat hook, it's 5 points cheaper, almost 1 less average damage, but you do get the terrifying wound mark. That opens up a new double, Horrifying Trophies. You do need to get a kill to activate it, but it will create a bubble of 6 inches around the fighter in which visible fighters cannot use abilities. That can be great to shut down the options for opposing warbands, even if it's just popping a double for onslaught. But you need to be careful, as it also stops friendly fighters, so use with care. Last up we have the Hound of Wrath. At 190, this is the Cursed Blood's counterpart. The Hound is faster, doing more damage, but with less wounds. He also has the Agile rune mark, so he can use the Pack Hunter's ability with the rest of the Bloodwhelps. Like so many others in this box, he is fast and deadly. As with the Cursed Blood, he also has the Beast rune mark, so he isn't going to be opening doors or holding treasure. It does mean you can get some use out of the Skaven ally, Master Molder. The ability unique to this fighter is the double Flaming Breath. You get to roll a dice for each enemy within 1 inch, and on a 4+, do 3 damage. Getting an extra attack die from Onslaught is on average going to be better, but if you didn't use it and ended up rolling low, or if you have 2 or more targets, then Flaming Breath is a nice option to have. And that's the Claws of Karanak. This is a fast warband that can dish out a lot of damage. They have Blood for the Blood God for extra actions, and Pack Hunter to chain fighter activations together, which I really think is very cool. Uniquely, they have the ability to shut down abilities, which levels the playing field and lets them focus on what they're good at, killing. It does look like you can build some of the fighters with or without masks, which I quite like, and we can see from this image that some of the fighters have different weapon options to those we saw earlier, so it does look like there is a decent amount of customization. This looks like a great box. Both warbands are fast and hard-hitting, so it'll make for a great game and a pretty cool base to build around if you're new to Warcry. If this is the first box you pick up, look for the Warcry rules PDF on the Warhammer community website, which has all the rules you need to play the game. The dice you need are just d6, which you'll probably have plenty of around, and the tokens needed are just for activation and damage, which are really easy to have alternatives for. Whether you're old or new, if you do have any Underworld warbands around, check out some of my recent videos to see how you could add those to this box to really expand the game out. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible 2-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.